Good morning, my friend. We'll start with a little tzedakah. Also because when we're trying to learn and understand Torah, I need Hashem's Rahmanis. I should understand it well. So when we give tzedakah, when we're nice to somebody else, and we're kind to somebody else, that awakens at Shemayim also, that Hashem has Rahmanis on us. We're continuing in our exploration of Parshas Vayikrah, where we built the Mishkan already in the end of last week's parsha. And even though we built the Mishkan, we're expecting some light, and what happens? There's no light, it's darkness. Last week's parsha ends off with the clouds in the way, Moshe can't come in. A cloud is the opposite of light. A cloud is the opposite of light. So, the Alter Rebbe notices two other differences, two other darkness, that it doesn't say who's speaking to Moshe, and it says, and the Aleph is a small Aleph, shows some darkness. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam shakal. We are holding Bezrat Hashem on page 2. Ois Gimel. So I didn't make a public service announcement. I did not prepare for the shir. There'll be some parts of the shir I might not know, and we're going to go with it for today. Gimel. So now we can understand what the Medrash says. By Moshe, once the Mishkan was built, there's a new experience. Till Moshe, it was always a malach speaking to Avram. A malach was communicating. There was always a malach habris in between. It was Hashem's message, but it's like talking to somebody through a cell phone. You hear his voice, it's that person, but no one could compare a real life experience to a phone call. Of course, if you want to speak to somebody, you miss them, talk to them on the phone, you hear their voice, you have a video call. But there's nothing like the real life experience. By Moshe Rabbeinu, once we built the Mishkan, it was a real life experience. And we explained already last Eis Aleph and Beis, that there's a Yashas Cheshach Sisrei. There's a very big, that it's kind of, why is it dark? It's not dark because a lack of light, because there's so much light, you have to have a cloud, you have to have those special glasses, so your eyes shouldn't get damaged by looking at the sun. Our Chacham tell us in the pasuk, these are the Yom Tovim of Hashem, they're called holy, that you will proclaim them, meaning that the Vikribe Tikru Atem, and there's that the Ksiv is Oisam, but the Kriya is Atem. Shakidush Hamoides Vikriya Bezdin Talei Vakosov. What makes, now we're coming to Pesach, right? So there's Hillel Azakim had a calendar. We're following his calendar because we don't have the Bezdin to decide. But if we were time based on Mikdash, there was a Bezdin, then the Bezdin would decide when it will be Yom Tiv. And they'll decide when Rish Chodesh, and based on Rish Chodesh will be Yom Tiv. Like we say, Hashem makes Yisrael holy, and Yisrael makes the Zmanim. This is like the mashal of Zer, which I do not know. Tilta Ziminin Mekadesh. I'm not sure. I have to get back to you on this. I apologize. Why? Because Yom Tif usually happens, mostly it happens in the weekday. So it's like the king who invited Ushpizin, that the guests are coming to the king. Oh, that's the mashal, he says in short. That it's a weekday that now becomes holy because it's a Yom Tif. That's why it's called Mikra Kodesh. Mikra means like you're calling, you invited them to holiness. A holiday, a Yom Tif, is Mikra Kodesh. You're inviting a regular weekday, come join the party. That's the mashal. Oh, so this is the mashal. That's what Alter Rebbe brought that amount, because that's in the Negei over here. That a king that invited guests. A Yom Tif is like a king that invited the guests. But in order that the weekday, which they are the external of the midas of Chesed Gvura, should go up to Chachmei La, Shebichinas Kodesh Elyon. We said already yesterday that Kodesh Elyon is Chachmei La. How could a regular weekday be uplifted? When we say it, what makes a Yom Tif a special day? The Rebbe explained it already in Maimorim from Elul. The Rebbe Masber given that it's the Ha'aretz Yod Gimel Misrachim, which is here it says now it's Kodesh Aliyim. So Chlis Tchila Hashachas Ha'ara Milmayla Lamata Mibchinas Chachma Ela Leisa Yem Sha'az Aydei Zeh Yuchal Alis. So first, the Chachma Ela has to shine for that day, and when it shines, then that day could come up. What draws down this earth from Kodesh Aliyim is dafka through you. You have the power. Hashem put the keys in your hand that you have the power. I have the power to draw down this earth. How could I have the power? I'm a nivra, I'm a limited being. So the Rebbe says, this is al derech what Chacham tell us, shluchei shel adam k'moisei. A shliach of a person, shluchei shel adam k'moisei, even though it's not the person, but it's just like the person. It's as if the person showed up. So we are a shliach for the Eibishter, and therefore you cannot appoint a shliach if he's cheresh, if he's shaita, dumb, deaf, dumb, v'katan, and a minor. Why? Why can't you? Because they are not the kemoisei of the mishaleach. They're not exactly like the mishaleach. Therefore, you cannot appoint them as a shliach. But if he's someone who's possible to become a shliach, once you appoint him to be a shliach, you're mamish like the shliach himself, the mishaleach himself. So much so that there's a halacha that in order to get married to a woman, you have to actually, there's three ways, whether you give her a star or whether with, so you could send a shliach, and the shliach now takes your space. It's as if you yourself was mekadesh this woman. So once it's brought out to halacha psuka, that it's actual halacha, that makes it very strong. Because obviously if it's a part of Torah's emes, but the shivim panim la Torah, once it comes into halacha mamish, now it's already Noilam Haza, it's already something which is practical and applicable and affects the physical world. It's a part of Torah that actually is affecting the physical world in a very real way. The only way you could, in order to invite a regular weekday from Kodesh Ha'elyon, from Chachma of Atzilus, that you want to invite them, that they should be also Mikroi Kodesh, you want to invite them into Kodesh. It's impossible unless the messenger is just like the Mishaleach. In other words, you are a Jewish soul. It says, a Jew is holy for Hashem. That their sources from Chachmei Law. Since we come from Chachmei Law, therefore we're able to do it. Therefore, you are able to draw down. Any Jew is able to draw down from Kodesh Aliyim to the regular weekday that Yom Tov falls out. It's a regular weekday, but a Jew, since your source, in other words, when your soul came, where did it come from? It came from Chachmei Law. Therefore, you're kamoisei mamish, and you're able to that through this you invite them that they become actually mikrei kodesh. A weekday now is transformed from a regular weekday to a holy day. And now it's able to uplift itself to Kodesh Aliyim. It comes out, it's understood from this, an idea of a shlichus that's above. What's a shlichus? The way there's a shlichus mamayla, that is draw down a ray of that through this, through an intermediary of any bechina. So the shliach has to have some type of yachas, some type of, in other words, the fact that the neshama comes from Atzilus, therefore it's Chachma of Atzilus, therefore it's able to do it. It has to be Kamaisi Mamish. It has to have some comparison to the source that it's drawn from. If not, he's not a shliach, it's a cheresh sheit v'katan. Now, a malach is also a shliach. Kipirish malach hainu shliach. What does a malach mean? What is the definition of a malach is a shliach? In other words, there are messengers that send over the hashpa, the communication, the energy, whatever Hashem is giving. Like it's explained in different places in Basi Lagani. Matat is called the shoe. So one malach is like a shoe. There's a massive difference by a malach when in the moment that he is giving the shlichus of the Eibishter, which then he's called Hashem Mamish, Hashechem B'Kibur, that's dwelling in him, but when he's not a shliach, he has a different name, according to his Avodah. Then he says Kodesh, Kodesh, Kodesh Havaya, Klemer, Hashem Havaya moved Lumeno. Hashem Havaya is separate from him. We'll go back to our topic. By Avram, there was no Mishkan, and Avram, there was a Malach in between calling to him. The idea is, Hashem says, I'll show you to Hashem said to Moshe, I reveal myself to Avram with Kel Shakai. The shame of Yud Kei Vav Kei, I didn't make known to them. Parshas Vayikrah, al pasuk zev the maskal ledaber elkim chuli. Vayirash shasogas ha'avos hayim mibchinas shem havai keshekvar nimshach mibchinas elikim. The avos were able to grasp Shem Yud Kei Vav Kei, how it's already enclosed in Shem Elikim. But Shmi Havaya, Tainu Kedem Shem Islabish b'Shem Elikim. Before it wasn't clothed in Shem Elikim. I didn't make known to them. Rather, from there was where Moshe was able to masik. I'm Peter Shanamaz Bezer Parshas Vayikrah Daf Chav Gimel Amud Aleph. Ein Shav Heitev Bezer Chelik Aleph Parshas Vayikrah. Valkein Ba'Avram Hamalach Kerev Adiber Medaber. And therefore by Avram, since he was not getting such a big level, the Malach was speaking. The Hashem Havaya was enclosed in Shem Elikim. Therefore the Malach was speaking, and the speech was speaking on its own. The Malach could be a messenger to bring the shefa in the beginning. That's the idea of kriya. Like we said before, the Targum Onkel is v'karo zel zel mekabli dei midein. The idea of calling is the idea of hashpa. That through this is able to go up and accept speech. Because speech, what is speech? Speech doesn't explain here. I don't know if he explains it. Speech comes from the Hey Maitzayis Hapeh. In other words, what is speech? Speech, when you speak, really, by default, it's just hot air coming out from your lungs. But there are Hey Maitzayis Hapeh. There are 5 parts of the mouth: your lips, your tongue, the palate, your throat, the 5 parts. And those 5 parts, they are metamtzeim. They don't let the flow of ear just go how it naturally wants to go. For example, if you want to say the letter P, 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 you have to form your lips in a very narrow space. Tss. And if you want to make the letter Tss, you have to put your tongue while you're in teeth, Tss, limiting the ear. Shem Elikim is the midah of limitations, Gevura. It's covering up. It's Shem Shemagan Havai Elikim. Elikim is like the Magen. Shem Elikim covers up on the flow from Hashem, and that's what causes Dibur. Shem Elikim is like the Hey Maitzayis Hapeh. That's what it seems like from here. And that's why Melachim are called also Elikim, because a Malach his job is Dibur, is communication. And communication is limiting, just like on your phone, Lahavdil. Right? Your phone is limiting that only if you call your number, you call that number, specifically these 7 digits, or it's 9 or 10 or whatever it is, based on your zip code or country number or WhatsApp messages or email address, it's only going to that specific location, that specific address, that specific person's phone. Elikei means the God of the Malachim. They are also called Bnei Elikim. And therefore the Malach is a messenger from the speech which is being spoken. But here by Moshe, after they built the Mishkan, It's not going through Shem Elikim. It's going through Havaya itself. Before it's a clothed in Shem Elikim. So too, the source of this Hamshacha is from the cloud of Yashas Cheshech Sisrei. Therefore, the speech cannot be through a malach, which a malach is a creation from something to nothing, because a malach is not compatible for this sort of communication. It's not 5G compatible. Even 5G is not good for it. So everything in Torah is not redundant. It says, I am the one who's calling, and I am the one that's speaking. Says the Alter Rebbe, the Medrash is very precise in its words. Why does it repeat it twice? And what's the I calling? This goes back to the mashal we gave. It's on the in the Alter Rebbe. Ani is the inner from Atzmos. Atzmos means who you are by your core. In other words, the Alter Rebbe was sitting with the Tzemach Tzedek. The Tzemach Tzedek was on his lap, and he was playing with him. He pulled, and the Alter Rebbe asks him, Avu is Zayda, where is Zaydi? So the Tzemach Tzedek pulls his beard. Da is Zayda. The Alter Rebbe says, no, that's Zaydi's beard. It's not Zaydi. So he pulls the Tzemach Tzedek, pulls the Alter Rebbe's ear. Oh, das is Zaydi. The Alter Rebbe says, no, that's Zaydi's ear. And whatever he did, he saw he couldn't win him. So he jumped off his lap, ran outside the room, and he screamed, Zayde! The Alter Rebbe turned around and said, Yo, yes. The Tzemach Tzedek ran into the room screaming, shouting, Oh, das is Zayde, that's Zayde. What's the story? The Alter Rebbe is communicating that there's something called the Ani of a person, and then there's the expressions of the Ani. Ani is the core, who you are. Not what you do, not human doing, human being. Your neshama. Your neshama is precious. It's so deep. The fact that you could talk, the fact that you could love, you could hate, you could cook a delicious meal, you could make business, you could build a family, you could build a business. This is all an expression of your soul. It's not your soul. It's one of the abilities that your soul could do. Why is it by me that way? Because really that's Hashem built it that way. Is Hashem by his core. And then this is how Hashem expresses himself through Shem Yud Kivavke, through Shem Elikim. And the Ani, by building the Mishkan, we're drawing down the Ani. We're drawing down something special that wasn't, Avram didn't have it, Yitzchak didn't have it, Yaakov didn't have it. And this is really a very special, I was reading this about the Shlichus, the Rebbe, when the Rebbe chooses us for a Shliach, what does it mean to be a Shliach of the Rebbe? K'moisei mamish. What it means to make a dirba tachtoinim. You go through your life and you say, I wish if only I was as holy as Avram, as serious as Yitzchak, and as loving as Yaakov, such Rachmanis. This Rachmanis. He had Tzar Gidul Banim. As loving as Avram, as serious as Yitzchak, and as merciful, Baal Rachman like Yaakov, this Arachamim. He built the 12 Shvatim. I would be able to be holy, but because my life is dark, I live in Tachtoinim. I live in the lowest of the low, very low level of consciousness. How could I bring Hashem into my life? Not only that, I built the Mishkan, I listened to what the Rebbe said, I built the Mishkan spiritually, and now there's a cloud. Says the Alter Rebbe, because the Ava is, there's a Malach talking. That's why there was no cloud. But now there's the Ani. What's the Ani Rishon Ani Achrein? Zod Alter Rebbe, Pirish, K'mishkos, Ani Rishon Ani Achrein. Like it says in the Pasuk, Hashem, the Navi says, Hashem says, I am first and I am last. Which that is, that's what it says when Mashiach will come. Any moment Mashiach is coming. The Rebbe already said Mashiach is here, and you can mamish see it every single day. Mashiach's mamish coming any moment. We're going to see Ani hu, twice Ani. Ani Rishon, Ani Achrein. Stam derech hatzachas. I heard this, I think, from Heilig Wiedemann. He said, what's Ani Rishon, Ani Achrein? In the beginning, a person trusts in the Eibishter. You go to yeshiva and you're melamed, plants in your shemayim, that parnasa comes from the Eibishter and everything comes from Hashem. You have to keep Torah mitzvahs. But then you get older and you see derech rishonim tzeilcha. You see the wicked people are matzliach. You see that they're doing with everything they want to do. And they're banging buck. They're getting good shidduch, they're banging buck. And you're doing the right thing, and you see you're not making money, not getting the good shidduch, everything. So you say, no, maybe I should follow them. So you start following. Olam has a plan. And after a while, you find out the bitter truth that Olam has is a fake world. What you see on social media, or you see a person could talk on social media, and he posts and makes a perfect image, but it's not true. How many people? There was a girl who she was made a video on social media, and if you look at her social media, she had such a good life. Her parents paid for her to have a beautiful apartment in Manhattan. Chulu v'chulu. And what happened at the end? She committed suicide. She was lonely. She was in emotional pain. She was suffering. But you were jealous of her. I was jealous of her. Why was I jealous of her? Because I only saw the chitzonius. So I tried and I see that Olam Hazeh doesn't work. So I realized, no, the Eibishter is taket. The Eibishter is the real deal. Ani Risha, and you start off with Hashem, then you veer and you get lost. And you go back to Hashem. That's done. So the Alter Rebbe is saying here, Anihu HaKorev, Anihu HaMedaber. When Mashiach will come, we're going to connect this level of Re'u Ata Ki Ani Anihu. Now, when Mashiach comes, you're going to see that Ani Anihu, that this Ani is the Eibishter. He explains, what does it mean, Ani Anihu? Le'achazah, to see, L'hava Pruda Ben Elu L'sa'at Chuli. Ani is to say, see, there's no difference between the top and below. V'hainu. Kani achrin zehu midas malchus yizbarach. What does achrin mean according to Chassidus Chabad? Achrin is the midah of malchus. Sufa de chol dargin. The lowest of all the levels. There's 10 spheres. Starts with chachma, bina das, whatever, and goes down to malchus is the last one. Mislabesh is b'biyah, which is enclosed in biyah, umishom yiparit. Like we explained yesterday, if we still have it. We still have it here. The Malchus, could you see that? Malchus, this is the world of Atzilus, this is Beriya, Yetzira, Asiya. And Malchus, from Malchus is where everything, Misham Yipared, because over here is a much, Atzilus is still light, but from Atzilus to the rest of the world is already Prida, it's separated from Hashem. There's a lower level of consciousness. It's much higher than mine right now, but it's a lower compared to Atzilus. In other words, this is the tifkeit of Dira B'Tachtonim. Because what in other words, Mashiach is not that I'm just going to plaster Hashem on the world. No. You're going to come to realization that Anihu, that Olam Hazeh is the Eibishter, Teva is the Eibishter, Likus is the Eibishter, it's Anihu, it's all the Eibishter. The highest level and the lowest level is the Eibishter. The first level, Ani Rishain, is Chachma. Anihu HaKoire is Chachma. V'Anihu HaMedaber, that is Malchus Datzilus. V'Chachma Antimatzi HaChachma, he bechinas Bittul, that Chachma is Bittul. Therefore it's Koire, not Medaber. There's a difference between Koire and Medaber. Daber is Dibur Kosher, that's Alikim, that's more Tzimtzum. אבל אני ראשון הוא בחינס עין והחוכמה הנתימצה שהחוכמה היא בחינס ביטל. Also, the Hagilei Lamata, K'mei Lamayla. Mashiach will come. It says by the Alter Rebbe that when he was laying on his deathbed, and on his Eres Devoy, he was laying down. In those days, they didn't, and I don't think they invented sheetrock yet in the 1800s. So most roofs, people couldn't afford it, and they had the beams. The ceiling beams were exposed. Nowadays, they had to come back in the Shtachas HaShemesh. So now it became a modern. A lot of things that in the olden days used to be a sign of poverty became now a sign of wealth, that you're able to afford something that people do. So he was looking at the beam, and Alter Rebbe said, I don't see the beam, I see the Devar Hashem that's Mechayet. That's Ani Anihu. You're going to see that in your job, and in the person, in every single aspect, it's not that there's davening and learning, and we're going to put a sticker on everything else. No. The Gashmis itself, Olam Hazeh itself, the challenges, your work and your job, you're going to see how that's really Hashem. That every frustration you went through, every challenge was, you were really just gathering sparks of Kedusha, bringing close to Hashem, revealing the Aleph that's in it. That when Mashiach will come, I will be able to see. This is what the Alter Rebbe saw before he was nostalgic. I'll be able to see it also with my physical eyes. Like it says, when Mashiach will come, my eye is going to see that Ani Anihu. Mishkos b'apazin novel lechech b'tzurim. Ach b'Moshe never vayar reishis lei. Moshe says vayar reishis lei shu b'chinas chachmei la. Shnikla reishis vayar reishis la. He saw reishis. What's reishis? Chachmei la. Shnikla reishis shenimshech b'chinas ayin ani rishin al kein al zenemer amar azal ani hu akerev ani omedaber chuli. Also, I read it wrong. So by Moshe Rabbeinu, so by us, there's a difference between now and when Mashiach will come. Now I can't see it, and now when Mashiach will come, I'll see it. But Moshe Rabbeinu, since he was called Moshe Rabbeinu, why? Meaning to say, like the Rebbe explains in Tanya Perek Beis, that a neshama starts off in Chachma of Atzilus, like we said. If not, you cannot be Shluchi Shel Adam. That's why it's Kemois Mamish. But then we go through a process, Beriya, Yetzira, Asiya, and as we go down through the four worlds, we're developed, so to speak, just like a baby in its mother's stomach, and we become a foot, a heel. We're now in the generation of Ikvis of the Meshicha, we're the heels. But Moshe Rabbeinu is the head. That the head, even when it's in the mother's stomach and goes through all the worlds, it doesn't change. It stays in its core of what it was before, meaning the tipa, the semen, came from the father's brain. So too, the brain stays in its natural form, in its natural state of consciousness. Since Moshe Rabbeinu was like it, how do you say that in the pasuk? He still sees how it was from step one. He's still on step one, even though he's in the physical world. Moshe Rabbeinu was able to see behind the mirage of physicality. It had a hechere kuk, a hechere bilik. Moshe is the one who's calling. Moshe says, "Ani ha'medaber about the Yisha Pirish. Ani ha'akir. I know me this malchus yisbarach. Ani ha'akir is malchus. Shnik ani ha'achrim ani v'hu ha'shiyana. That's the idea. Ani v'hu ha'shiyana. Ani ha'medaber. Hainu b'chinas v'chachma intimatzi. Dibur is chachma. Shebechachma lamul b'she'erin zebarach u'mamish k'mishkos v'ay b'chachma. How does it work with it? I explained Dibur is cautious. I'm not sure. That verstehen, that pshat, I have a question on that, but we'll have to figure that out. This is called ani rishin. So ani rishin is chachmei la. That's dibur. Oh, because it's coming down to us, it flips over. Ani ha'akere is malchus, and medaber is chachma atzilus. It says in Parshas Vayikrah, I believe that's from the beginning it's the beginning. That this is the Malach Habris. Malchus itself, which is called Melech, it's called the king, like we explained in previous times. Why is it called the king? Since Malchus is in from Malchus Peh, Malchus, the idea of speech. And a king, the way he controls is through speech. So when he's sent from above and he accepts the ray, then he's called a malach. In other words, malchus is like a transistor; it could switch functions. It could be dibur or it could be a malach. We said before, a malach, when it's not a shliach, it's on a lower level. When it becomes a shliach, it goes on a higher level. So too, malchus, even though it's one, malchus of Atzilus is mamish one with the er, but when it becomes a shliach, it changes. Haramaz Parshas Vayikrah al derech zehu inin aleph zeira de Vayikra shu ha'arav hamshacha shemibchinas kishachein olav ha'an the yashas cheshach sisrei Rika malach melech aleph chuli. I'm zer Parshas Vayikrah apazim malach panov Yeshiyam. I'm zer Parshas Vayichid apazim Naftali ayala shlucha. I'm Parshas Vayikrah erech malach. So that wraps it up for today. Have a wonderful day. What I'm taking from today's lesson, today's Maimer, it's a beautiful thing that Alter Rebbe said. Number one is a shliach. The power of a shliach. That even though I don't have everything, but there's a kamaise, the aspect, so obviously I can't be a shaita, a chassid is nishkin shaita, but I have a certain aspect that I come from Chachmei La. I'm the raglaim of the Rebbe. Since I'm a shliach, when I'm a shliach from the Rebbe, all of a sudden I become a whole different level. It's a meiri de kavart. The second thing that I'm taking from today's lesson is the idea of ani anihu. I have to realize, even though I don't see it yet, but to just be aware of it, that there is the ani. The Hashem's core is in my avodah, in making my life and my house and my car a dira lo yizbarech, a mishkan for Hashem. In there is invested the ani anihu. I can't see it. The Moshe could see it, and the Asid Lavi, especially in our days, we're going to see ki ba'ayin ba'ayin yiru. We're going to see really v'nigul kved Hashem v'rochel v'asayachtav. We're going to see v'mehedav v'meino mamish that ani anihu, that it's all the Eibush there. Einoid mulvadoi. Speedily in our days, l'chaim l'chaim. Have a wonderful day.